Yeah, I'm the Managing Director of Weber UK and Ireland, so we cover both countries. I've been with the business for 8 years. It's my 8th year. Before that I was 3 years with the installation business in Ireland.
From your perspective, what's been the biggest benefit of the IBP programme in your leadership role?
I suppose it has meant people are much more empowered now than before, and we're finding that the decisions in the business have been made at a more appropriate level, which has allowed the exec team and the leadership team to focus more on the future of the business. It has also been very unifying in terms of the organisation. We've all been unified in the pursuit of excellence, and that's been great. And I think there's a more integrated and collaborative approach across the leadership team in general. If we go right back to the beginning, we actually reshaped our strategy all around IBP, so we made IBP central to the delivery of the strategy, and that was a clear signal to the organisation that this is really important around here. But since we moved on now, the IBP process forces us, when we're developing our strategy, to be more specific about the gap closing measures. So it's not simply a matter of saying we're going to grow by 5% or grow by 10% or whatever, or go after new markets. We have to be much more specific about saying, well, where exactly is that gap? How are we going to close that gap? So I think it has been much better in that sense. One of the I suppose weaknesses of the policy deployment process was that it started on the 1st of January and finished on the 31st of December. But life isn't like that. So we have evolved the strategy in action, which has replaced policy deployment now, so that it's a 3-year rolling strategy. So we have introduced it so that things don't start on the 1st of January and finish on the 31st of December. They have a rolling approach, and that runs right alongside the growth strategy we have as well.
If there were 3 pieces of advice you'd give to a CEO or a managing director who was starting out on their own journey, what would the advice you would give them?
I mean, based on our own experience, you need to feel really uncomfortable where your business is before you start. I mean, when we met you nearly 5 years ago, we weren't uncomfortable enough to start the program then. We became very uncomfortable. So you need to be either very uncomfortable or make yourself very uncomfortable where your business is at. And secondly, seek out, as we did, a company that's been on the journey. And when we went to see AkzoNobel that you facilitated for us, the penny dropped.
Did that help?
Oh yeah, that was critical, because I remember Louisa and Steve at the time, their eyes opened up because they suddenly saw what life could be like, what great looked like, and that was very, very important. So that's a critical piece of advice. The second thing is that I would say that don't scrimper on training of people right at the start. Invest in training, particularly in the leadership team, because there's a huge change program involved. That's the second thing. And the third thing I would say is that involve the people at all levels of the organisation that are going to deliver and embed the processes right from the beginning. And if I was offered a fourth piece of advice, I would say look for quick wins. Don't expect overnight success.
What's next?
Our journey has taken us 4 years, and in some ways we're just getting started. We've reached the 95% target across each of the metrics, but that still means that we've 1 in 20 failures. And it also means that we're still firefighting a little bit to hit that 95%. It's not all, there's very little firefighting in comparison. So we really have to work hard at really getting down to the next level of detail in each of the metrics and driving for even greater performance. I think that's critical for us. We need to wow the customer. I mean, that's a big part of our journey for the last couple of years. But at 95% on time and full, we wouldn't be wowing ourselves, never mind wowing the customer. So just drive for better performance. Create more capacity so that we have the capacity to grow to our 100 million. Get better at forecasting. I've said it a number of times before, thank goodness for IBP. It's been a wonderful program for us. Yeah.
Well, maybe just two more questions. In terms of the business aspect, it's been worth doing from a business aspect.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, the results. I mean, 2015 was our best year ever in the business. So the financial results are much better. And you know, we were told 12, 18 months ago by our head of supply chain in Weber Europe that we would never hit 95% OTIF based on the way we were measuring it. He said you'll never do it. So it's been fantastic in terms of the financial results. Yeah. So, but I think the biggest benefit, you know, really in some ways really has been how it has brought people together.
That was going to be my other question actually, from the people perspective. What's been? People have become so empowered, and people have become so motivated to get behind the program. It's been, I mean, we were probably starting in a good place in terms of a culture in the business. We started 4 or 5 years ago. We probably had a good culture going, but now it's even better because it really has unified people. And you know, it was never a program that was driven by the exec or the leadership team. It was a program that really became a grassroots movement, and everybody strived to make the improvements.
My name is Louisa Ionesco and I'm the Head of Customer Experience.
What are the key changes the IBP programme has made to the customer service team?
I think, to put it quite simply, it's allowed us to serve our customers. Prior to IBP, because we didn't have a demand forecast, we weren't able to anticipate the customer's needs. Our production schedule adherence was very poor, therefore anything that we did confirm to our customers we were often unable to actually deliver on. Stock record accuracy was poor as well, so we were just not in a position to serve our customers. I think you can just about imagine what life was like in terms of use of SAP. Nobody had any trust in it, therefore they weren't using it properly. So over time we accumulated a number of spreadsheets and other reports and data all over the place where we were trying to manage the business. This often meant that we had different data sets and therefore different responses to our customers, which was just unmanageable. With the IBP program we started to use SAP more and more, and we truly unlocked its potential. One of the biggest issues was that certainly the use of SAP didn't match our business ambition.
Okay.
So there was huge disparity between what we were able to do and what we wanted to do. And over time we come to understand that it was through SAP that we would deliver our promise to our customers. There was a lot of time spent on educating people why we should focus on SAP and we should focus on getting the system to work properly, because it is the tool we need to use to serve our customers. And slowly but surely, as we started using it more and more, people understood that this is working for us and not against us. Nowadays, 200 tickets later, our SAP system is helping us serve our customers. I think one of the biggest learnings as we evolved through the IBP journey was that we are quite an ambitious business, as you rightly said yourself. And for us, the journey doesn't stop here. IBP has enabled us to gain control of our business, and it's allowing us to explore the full potential of the business. What could we do? And part of that is, now that we are operationally capable and we do routine things routinely, we want to focus on service excellence to be able to differentiate in our service level to our customers. So if I was going to put it in a nutshell, I would say that IBP has allowed us to be good. Our ambition is to be great. So part of that will be to now ensure that we start to understand what our customers expect and want from us and create tailored experiences for them. And of course you can't do that if you're not in control of your business.
If you could just talk about how the budgeting cycle, the budgeting process was done before your IBP programme, and how is it done now?
Yeah, I suppose the key for us is that it was a very much standalone process for us, driven by finance, but almost we would sit ourselves in the room and request lots of information from the rest of the business.
Okay.
get people to tell us what their overhead spends and likely plans were for the coming year. But very much silo by silo, stream by stream, it would then be fed into us, and we would pretty much just sum up the numbers and check that it made sense. And I think the consistency of the budget just wasn't there. You might have the R&D team planning the research work for the launch of a new product, but nothing in the marketing budget for the actual go live of the product. The key point is the integrated part of integrated business planning, and that's where we really striven for excellence, I think. Also the fact that we used to do budgets and forecasts 4 or 5 times a year in isolation, the fact that we now have that monthly review of everything that's going on, I like to think of it as assumptions-based accounting. If the assumptions haven't changed, then don't spend time analysing this area to death. But if you've got something where you know from the KPIs and metrics that your assumptions were not quite right, change them and really focus on changing that area. Maybe most evident in our resource planning. So if we understand that if our volumes are going to move in certain directions, or if we're going to win new business, potential big new business with new customers, is the whole business, does it have the resources to cope with that? Do we need to potentially put on extra shifts in the factory? How will the marketing team cope? How many new deliveries will we be receiving every day? What the monthly cycle process gives us is the ability to go back in a very short space of time to, for example, the demand team and say, well, you've presented these numbers and we've now used those and rolled those up into the system, and compared to what you said last month and compared to what you're now saying this month, this is the effect on the business in terms of sales, in terms of profit, in terms of working capital. So people get that really quick feedback on what their numbers have done, and they understand and see the value in getting those numbers accurate because they know they're the only numbers finance are working on now. One of the things most good accountants in an old-fashioned sort of sense, certainly how it was here, we'd regard ourselves as a good accountant if you had lots of provisions for losses and things that you knew would come out of the woodwork in the end. It's cushioning effect. But by recognising that the data has improved now, I challenge my team to say, well, what's that provision doing there? Where's the data to support it? We know that out in the factory, our stock record accuracy is at a far higher level than before. We know that the master data in our systems for our reorder points and our trigger levels and our, in terms of raw material planning, are working. And the fact that we have a 2-year view of the future, we can see and predict what our stock levels are going to be. We've gone through a phase of people understood that it was important for getting their metrics correct. So in terms of MSS and PSP, you can't deliver that unless your routings are correct and your bills of materials are all correct in the system. But more recently, what we've tried to demonstrate to people is we're not only using this to measure you on a weekly basis, we're also using this to forecast a plan, this 2-year horizon. So if there's going to be an improvement in that routing, or if there's going to be some plant efficiency gains, we need to make sure that that's on the work centre, so that we can understand that work centre will be delivering a greater output, for example, in 6 months' time than we have right now, and we need that data to be correct as well.
Our direct customers are happier certainly than they were before, and it's really resounded by one large independent merchant who 2 years ago had a very sort of vociferous conversation with 2 of our directors, senior directors, about the abysmal performance, and we were his worst supplier. Just 2 weeks ago, completely out of the blue, he sent a really nice email to these 2 directors saying that he'd seen such a turnaround in Weber's performance over 2 years, and now we were one of his better suppliers. it's helped us and actually prompted us to look at our data a lot more. We're a fairly data-driven business. We like our information, and previously our information would have been questionable both from the marketplace and also the actual sort of sales and demand data. So it's really made us and the sales team or the sales management team really look closely at the information we've got, particularly from the market, from customer performance, both in sort of annual performance but also subjective comment. But primarily we've used a lot of the data from our CRM system and really interrogated that data to make sure that the sales team are putting in really credible, regulated data that we now extract, use, manipulate, and that really drives our demand forecast. So I think the sales managers are more comfortable now because they do have much more reliable information both from the team and the market to make decisions on, where before it might have been a little bit more by sort of feel or experience rather than being data driven.